Hello, researchers! Welcome to this channel, where we break the paradigms of the Enlightenment. By examining the facts, we uncover truths that have been deeply hidden. Today we will deal with one of the most complex questions in linguistics. We will trace what the Greek language is, what the Hellenic language is, and how the Alexandrian language adopted the name Hellenic in order to gain prestige. We will see how this same language, Semitic in origin, later adopted the names Greek and finally Roman. We will see how the Alexandrian language took three different Balkan names to build its authority. And in the end, we will see that this language was not spoken anywhere in the empire, neither in Asia Minor nor in the Balkans. But let us begin from the very start. The Romans did not call the peoples of the Balkans Hellenes. Instead, they used the Latin word Greci. This was not an ethnonym invented by the Romans. The name came from a small tribe in Epirus, the Graikoi, located around Dodona. The first contact the Romans had with the Balkans was with these western Epirote tribes. Cicero used the term Graecia as a cultural space, not as an ethnicity. He wrote that the Greeks were many different peoples with different laws, dialects and traditions. But the Romans called them Greci. This shows very clearly that the Romans understood Greeks as a cultural group. Strabo makes an important distinction. Hellenes means a cultural and literary identity. Graikoi refers to the ancient inhabitants around Dodona. Graecia is the name used by the Romans. Strabo states directly that the Romans took the name Greci from the western tribes, not from the Athenians or the Ionians. Livy describes Graecia as Macedonia, Epirus, Thessaly, Phocis, Boeotia, Attica and the Peloponnese. He adds that the Thracians shared Greek cults and warrior traditions. Livy explicitly says, the Thracians do not differ from the Greeks in their customs, weapons or pagan rites. This means that for the Romans, Thracians and Greeks belong to the same cultural world. Strabo offers one of the most important observations: the Thracians, the Macedonians and the Epirotes share the same character, the same songs and heroic poetry. In other words, the culture of Orpheus, Rhasos, Diomedes, Achilles, Alexander and Odysseus belongs to one and the same cultural layer. The Romans classified it as Greek not because it was Ionian, but because they used the word Greci for the entire northern Balkan heroic world. Plutarch says that the Macedonians are close in character to the Thracians. He adds that this heroic culture made Alexander closer to Achilles than to the Athenians. The Athenians were part of a maritime, commercial, polis-based civilization. The northern peoples were a royal, heroic, clan-based culture. The Ionian world was a world of sea, trade and philosophy. The northern Balkan world was a world of kingship, heroes and horsemen. Diodorus writes that Orpheus, Linus, Thamyris, Musaeus and even Dionysus were Thracian figures. And these very figures form the spiritual core of what the Romans called Greek. They understood this well. For them, the Thracians were part of the cultural world called Graecia. Hellen was a cultural and religious term. Graikos, or Greek, was the old name of a northwestern tribe. Megael Hellas was the Greek self-designation. Magna Graecia was the Roman translation. Magna Hellas was not the same as Magna Graecia. The Romans imposed their own name, Greci, even though the people there called themselves Hellenes. Who were the Graikoi around the Achelous River and Dodona? They were tribes belonging to the same cultural world as the Thracians and the Macedonians, the world of Achilles, the Myrmidons. The Pelasgians, Orpheus, royal authority and warrior tradition. Therefore, Greek did not mean Hellene. This was never the case in antiquity. Graecus was a Roman cultural classification. Hellen was a cultural and religious identity. Thracians, Macedonians and Epirotes were distinct peoples. The Romans used the name Greci for the entire cultural zone, whether Thracian, Epirote or Macedonian. But the people themselves used their own names: Hellenes, Pelasgians, Denotes, Argives, Myrmidons, Macedonians, Thracians. No one in the classical era said, "We are Greeks." That was purely a Roman term. Greeks was the name applied to heroic and royal culture, not to philosophers. Philosophers were Hellenes. Graikoi, called Greci by the Romans, belonged to the world of Epirus, Thessaly, the Pelasgians, the heroes and the kings. Hellenes were the philosophical self-designation of the Athenians and the Ionians. When Emperor Julian says, "I follow the Hellenes," he means the philosophers, not the Graikoi. For him, Hellen meant an educated, classically trained person. Greek meant someone belonging to the northern Balkan heroic tradition. The Ionians were not the center of the term Greci. In antiquity, the word Greek was the Roman name for the northern Balkan heroic world. Hellen was a separate term that meant classically educated or philosophically trained. Therefore, the Greek language, in Roman usage, referred to the Balkan koine, not to the philosophical Hellenic language. Alexander's language, the koine, was Greek for the Romans, but it was not Hellenic. In the texts of the 3rd and 4th centuries, the word Greek meant a speaker of the Greek language. Greek meant a language, not a nation. When the Romans used the words Greci, Graecus or Greca lingua, they meant speakers of Greek, people of the Eastern cultural sphere, members of that administrative literary world. This did not mean Hellenes. What did Hellen mean in late antiquity? It did not mean Greek. It meant classically educated, initiated into ancient philosophy, pagan. When Julian said, "I follow the Hellenes in education," he meant the philosophers. That is why he did not use the word Greek. The Athenian and Ionian dialects disappeared as spoken languages. People spoke a mixed koine, Macedonian, Thracian, Epirote, different from the Attic dialect. The Balkan koine, the language of Constantine, the army, Illyricum and Thrace, came from the Thracian Epirote Macedonian world. This was the language that the Romans called the Greek language. It was the language of the Graikoi, not of the Hellenes. And so, friends, in this first part we examined what the term Greeks meant in antiquity. We saw that this name was used for all the peoples of the Balkans as a general cultural designation. But after the Hellenistic philosophical language disappeared, the only remaining bearer of the Greek language was the Thracian koine, and this was what the Roman Empire recognized as the Greek language. At the same time, another non-Indo-European language was developing in the 3rd century before Christ, around the translation of the Septuagint. This was the Alexandrian koine, called Hellenistic in order to gain prestige from the ancient Hellenic tradition. But this language was completely different from the Balkan Greek. It had Semitic and Egyptian influences and was incomprehensible to the people of the Balkans. Constantine did not understand it. Eusebius says this explicitly. Ordinary people did not speak it. The name of this Alexandrian language later changed. From Hellenistic, it became Greek. And later, from Greek, it became Roman, the ROMAIC language. But we will explore this in the second part. Thank you, friends, for watching this video. Subscribe to the channel and leave your opinion in the comments.